Hi, Fenway. This is Ms. McBride, your librarian, and I'm here to help you decide what your book of choice will be for summer reading. So, if you remember, all of us are reading the graphic novel They Called Us Enemy. Then you get to pick two other graphic novels from that list. And finally, the last book is any book you choose. So, I'm here to talk about a few books that you can find on the app Hoopla that I think you might enjoy reading. So, let's go. So, our first book is I'm Not Dying with You Tonight. This book is realistic fiction. It's told in dual perspective, which means each character has their own point of view, so each chapter is from that character's point of view. And it's also available on Hoopla, just like all the books I'm talking about. So, in this book, the two main characters are Campbell, who's a white girl who's brand new at school, and Lena, who's black. The two of them have never interacted before, but they're both at this really big football game when suddenly a big fight starts and there's gunshots and people are just going crazy. There's so much chaos. So Lena and Campbell are kind of thrown together and they have to work together to literally survive the night and get to safety. So it was really interesting. It kept me at the edge of my seat because I wanted to know what was going to happen and if everything was going to be okay. And another reason you might want to read it is one of the authors, Kimberly Jones, she went viral in her video, which you might have seen, talking about the protests that were happening after the Black Lives Matter marches when people claimed that people were looting. She had a really great video talking about what looting is and why we can't liken it to violence. So you might have seen her. She went viral. She is one of the authors of this book. So I got two on this next slide by Elizabeth Acevedo. I think some of you guys have read her books, and so if you haven't, I'm really pushing you. You need to read one of her books. She is an amazing writer. So the first book on the slide here, With the Fire on High, it's realistic fiction. It is written like a regular book. The main character is Emily, and she had a baby her sophomore year of school. And ever since then, she's just been focused on taking care of her daughter and just getting done with school. And now she's a senior and she's starting to think about what does she want to do with her life. And she's feeling like she can't go to college, she can't go on because she has to take care of her daughter. The other thing about Emily is she loves cooking, and people say when they eat her food, they feel memories, and her food like brings back really good memories. So that's one of her passions, and she kind of does that when she gets really stressed. I loved this book. I totally recommend it. Also, because there's some recipes in it. So as you're reading, you can decide to make whatever she's making. And the other book, this was Elizabeth Acevedo's first book, is The Poet X. This is a novel in verse, so it is written like a giant poem. So in this book, the main character is Xiomara, and Xiomara was born in the US, but her mom is from the Dominican Republic, and her mom is really traditional. Like, she's always telling Xiomara, like, I don't want you to be dating boys, you always have to come home right after school. And Xiomara kind of wants to push back a little bit. She wants to have her own life. She's trying to explain to her mom that, like, things are different here. It's set in New York City, and one of the things that Xiomara loves to do is she loves to write poetry. Her mom doesn't really approve of that. So she kind of tricks mom and she decides to join a poetry club after school. But she tells her mom that she's going to a religious education class. And then mom finds out, obviously, and things happen. I really, really recommend The Poet X. If you've never read a novel in verse, this is a good one to start with. It was like my first one, and I really enjoyed it. Also, if you're listening to me talk about books and you're like, oh, I don't really like reading, try a novel in verse. Try The Poet X. You might prefer that versus the traditional novel. And both of these books are available on Hoopla. So next I've got Fake ID. This one is both action and then also it's like a mystery thriller. Now, some of you listening to this video have probably read the book One of Us is Lying. If you liked that, I think you would also like Fake ID. It's got those same twists and turns and it just leaves you wondering, wait, what's going on? So in this book, Fake ID, the main character is Nick, but that's not his real name. So, Nick and his family have been in the witness protection program for many years, and they've just had to move to another town. And he's starting over at a new school. And again, this isn't even his real name. He's starting over with a new name. So his goal here is to stay at the school till at least he graduates before having to move again. And he's decided he's just going to lay low, he's just going to keep to himself and just get through school. But shortly after he arrives, he starts making friends. And then one person who starts becoming his good friend, Eli, is suddenly murdered. So now Nick is starting to think, like, okay, I want to not draw attention to myself, but my best friend was just killed. I need to figure out what happened. So he feels he doesn't have a choice, and now he needs to figure out what went on. Again, this book will, like, you're going to think you know what's going to happen. You won't, believe me. So if you're into mysteries, if you're into thrillers, highly recommend Fake ID. And my last recommendation for today is a book called The Rest of Us Just Live Here. So this book is speculative fiction, which means it's a type of fiction that really can't take place in real life, and it's more of a fantasy superhero book. It's also really funny. So in this book, picture a world where almost everyone is a superhero. Everyone has special powers, they can save the world, they can do magic, but then there are some regular people. So, what if you are one of those regular people living in this world of superheroes? What is your life like? What if you are in high school and you're focused on, like, I just want to ask this girl I like out to prom. I'm not here trying to save the school from a meteor. So, this book is about the regular people living in a world of mostly superheroes. It is really funny. It is one of those books that you're just kind of like laughing at. It's not one that you would think of, because a lot of books about superheroes, there's only one superhero and many regular people. So, in this book, it's reversed: many superheroes, a few regular people. So if you're into fantasy or superhero books, or you just want a humorous book, I definitely recommend The Rest of Us Just Live Here. It is also available on Hoopla, just like all the rest of the books. So if you're listening to me talk about these books, but none of them really sound like something you'd want to read and you want some other recommendations, send me an email. Here's my email, bmcbride@fenwayhs.org, and tell me what kinds of books or things you like to do, and I'll create a list just for you. Happy reading, Fenway!